feared by many in the wasteland. He's known for his military prowess and his ability to inspire his troops to fight to the death. He's a polar opposite of me, and we have very different views on how to lead and protect our people.
What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of his tactics?
Lanius' strength lies in his ability to inspire his troops to fight fiercely, even in the face of overwhelming odds. He's also a master of strategy and tactics, able to anticipate his enemy's moves and outmaneuver them. However, his weakness is that he's often too focused on conquest and domination, and doesn't always consider the long-term consequences of his actions. At least that's what I think.
That's interesting. Have you ever faced him in battle?
No, I haven't yet. But I'm confident enough he isn't as tough and scary as he sounds. After all, I am the Chad and he is the Soyjak. I have faith in my troops and our strategy, and I believe we can defeat him if necessary.
That's an interesting way to put it. Well, it sounds like you're ready for whatever comes your way. Thanks again for joining us today, General Oliver.
Thank you, Joe. It was a pleasure to be here.
Are you tired of living in a world filled with chaos and danger? Do you long for a safe and secure future? Look no further than the Brotherhood of Steel. At the Brotherhood of Steel, we believe in the power of technology and the importance of preserving it for future generations. Our highly trained soldiers and knights are dedicated to keeping the wasteland safe from the dangers that threaten to destroy it, using the latest in military hardware and cutting-edge technology. We're more than just a military organization. We're a family. We value loyalty, honor, and a commitment to the greater good, and we welcome anyone who shares those values to join our ranks, whether you're a skilled fighter, a talented engineer, or just someone who wants to make a difference. There's a place for you in the Brotherhood of Steel. So if you're ready to fight for a better future and protect the wasteland from those who would destroy it, come join the Brotherhood.
Warrior, feared by many in the wasteland. He's known for his military prowess and his ability to inspire his troops to fight to the death. He's a polar opposite of me, and we have very different views on how to lead and protect our people.
What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of his tactics?
Lanius' strength lies in his ability to inspire his troops to fight fiercely, even in the face of overwhelming odds. He's also a master of strategy and tactics, able to anticipate his enemy's moves and outmaneuver them. However, his weakness is that he's often too focused on conquest and domination, and doesn't always consider the long-term consequences of his actions. At least that's what I think.
That's interesting. Have you ever faced him in battle?
No, I haven't yet. But I'm confident enough he isn't as tough and scary as he sounds. After all, I am the Chad and he is the Soy Jack. I have faith in my troops and our strategy, and I believe we can defeat him if necessary.
That's an interesting way to put it. Well, it sounds like you're ready for whatever comes your way. Thanks again for joining us today, General Oliver.
Thank you, Joe. It was a pleasure to be here.
Tired of living in a world filled with chaos and danger? Do you long for a safe and secure future? Look no further than the Brotherhood of Steel. At the Brotherhood of Steel, we believe in the power of technology and the importance of preserving it for future generations. Our highly trained soldiers and knights are dedicated to keeping the wasteland safe from the dangers that threaten to destroy it, using the latest in military hardware and cutting-edge technology. But we're more than just a military organization. We're a family. We value loyalty, honor, and a commitment to the greater good, and we welcome anyone who shares those values to join our ranks, whether you're a skilled fighter, a talented engineer, or just someone who wants to make a difference. There's a place for you in the Brotherhood of Steel. So if you're ready to fight for a better future and protect the wasteland from those who would destroy it, come join the Brotherhood of Steel. Remember the Brotherhood of Steel? For a safer tomorrow. And I know I probably shouldn't have accepted this sponsorship offer, but they paid up front and in caps. 15,000 caps to be specific. Sure, I could have just pocketed the money and burned their letter with this offer, but the Brotherhood of Steel is just so fucking cool. I'm not even fully talking about their power armor, which, don't get me wrong, is so dope. But even the way they carry themselves and act like they're Knights of the Round Table, it's so sick. Everything about them is just so dope. And I know I'm going to catch some heat from Karen at the NCR's public relations office, for saying all of this. I just can't resist. The viewers and listeners watch and listen to my show because I say it like it is. No bullshit. Just pure, unaltered opinion. And some of you may not like what I have to say, and that's fine. Hell, some of you may even have had friends or family who served or maybe even died during the NCR and Brotherhood of Steel war. But the Brotherhood is undeniably cool. Everything from the power armor to their laser and plasma weaponry, the way that they treat themselves like Knights of the Round Table, the technology that they amass, it's all very cool. And you know what? I've got a small batch of some special vault-grown wild wasteland kush on me right now that I'm going to spark up in honor of the Brotherhood of Steel. Cheers, everyone, and thank you to the Brotherhood of Steel for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience. And a quick message to NCR PR. When I'm on air, you don't get to blow up my Pip-Boy or Jamie's Pip-Boy with messages like, "What are you doing? Stop this right now." And if you don't cut your broadcast, we'll shut you down. And my favorite of all of the messages you guys sent, we're sending an NCR tactical unit to shut down your podcast right now. You had your chance. Hope you enjoyed your 15 minutes of fame with the NCR. I'd like to see you come down here and try to shut us down. This is the Joe Rogan Experience, the new California Republic's #1 podcast. And we ain't going nowhere, motherfucker. So walk that tactical squad back to headquarters. Before me, Jamie, Mark Norman, Shane Gillis, and Ari Shafir start loading up our modified laser assault energy rifles. Me and the JRE crew don't play games. Karen. Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience, folks. Today we've got a special guest with us, Nobark Noonan, a self-proclaimed scientist and conspiracy theorist from Novak. Nobark, how are you doing today?
Well, Joe, I'm doing just fine despite Rad Scorpion.
Okay, but take care of
your
your
having me on your show. You know, I've been following your podcast for a while now, and I've got to say, you're one of the few honest voices out there.
Thanks. Man, I appreciate that. So, let's get into it. What kind of conspiracies are you into?
Well, Joe, where do I start? There's so many things going on that people just don't know about. For instance, Did you know that there are ghost commies at the REPCON facility?
What, are you serious?
Dead serious, Joe. They want to fly to the moon, paint the moon pink and draw a Lenin face on it. Not only that, you know that there's a secret government base on the moon? They've been up there for years, conducting all sorts of experiments and building all sorts of crazy stuff. And it's not just the moon. They've got secret bases all over the place. They're trying to fight the commies.
That's insane. How do you know all of this?
Well, Joe, I've been doing my research. I've got sources all over the place, people who have seen things that they weren't supposed to see. And let me tell you, once you start digging, you start finding all sorts of crazy stuff.
I can only imagine. So, what's the end game here? What are they trying to accomplish?
It's all about control, Joe. They want to control the moon and spread their commie message. They'll stop at nothing to achieve their goal. They're using all sorts of advanced technology that we don't even know about yet. And they're manipulating us in ways that we can't even imagine.
That's some heavy stuff, No Bark. It's definitely something to think about. Now, my other question is, there's rumors that cows have been dying left and right near Novak. You know anything about that?
Oh yeah, Joe. That's been going on for a while now. People around here have been losing their cattle, and nobody knows why. Some folks say it's the commies testing out some kind of new weapon, while others think it's some kind of alien activity.
Alien activity? What makes you say that?
Well, Joe, it's not just the cows. There have been strange lights in the sky, weird noises at night, and sightings of strange creatures around here. And let me tell you, it's not just happening in activity.
Alien activity? What makes you say that?
Well, Joe, it's not just the cows. There have been strange lights in the sky, weird noises at night, and sightings of strange creatures around here. And let me tell you, it's not just happening in Novak. It's happening all over the world.
Wow, that's crazy. So you think these aliens are targeting cows specifically?
Well, Joe, there are a lot of theories about why the aliens might be interested in cows. Some say it's because of their DNA, while others think it's because cows are a major source of food for humans. But one thing's for sure, the aliens are up to something, and we need to be prepared.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. No, Bark. Let me ask you something. You think there might be some sort of practical explanation for the cow
Or is
deaths,
that me?
raiders, super mutants, or something like that?
No, it's
Well,
not
Joe,
me.
it's possible, but I think there's more to it than just that. We've had raiders and super mutants around here for years, and they've never targeted cows like this before. And besides, the cattle are being killed in strange ways, with no visible signs of trauma or injury.
That's definitely odd. So you're saying it's more likely that the commies or aliens are involved?
Absolutely, Joe. It's just another piece of the puzzle. The commies and the aliens are always up to something, and we need to be vigilant if we want to protect ourselves and our communities.
I hear you, man. It's definitely something to keep in mind. All right, let's move on. Before the show, you talked to me about the NCR conspiracy. What's that all about?
Oh yeah, Joe. The NCR is a shady organization that's been gaining power in the wasteland. They claim to be working towards a better future for all, but in reality, they're just trying to consolidate power and control everyone and everything.
That sounds like a classic conspiracy theory. What evidence do you have to support this claim?
Well, Joe, I've been doing some digging, and I found out that the NCR has been involved in some pretty sketchy dealings. They've been making backroom deals with the Enclave and other powerful factions, and they've been suppressing information that could be damaging to their image.
Wow! So you're saying the Enclave is still alive and functioning? Interesting. So, what's the end game here? What do they want?
Like I said before, Joe, it's all about control. The NCR wants to be the top dog in the wasteland, and they'll stop at nothing to achieve that goal. They're using propaganda, censorship, and other dirty tactics to manipulate the people and keep themselves in power.
That's definitely something to think about. Now, I want to hear more about your thoughts on the Brotherhood of Steel. What are they doing? Why have they been so quiet?
Well, Joe, the Brotherhood of Steel is an enigmatic faction that's been operating in the wasteland for a long time now. They're known for their advanced technology and their strict code of ethics, but lately they've been keeping to themselves and staying out of the public eye.
That's definitely unusual. Why do you think that is?
Well, Joe, there are a lot of theories out there. Some say that the Brotherhood is gearing up for a major conflict, and they don't want to reveal their plans too soon. Others think that they're involved in some kind of secret research or experimentation, and they don't want anyone else to know about it.
Interesting. So what do you think the Brotherhood is up to?
It's hard to say for sure, Joe. But one thing's for certain. They're not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs. The Brotherhood is always working towards some kind of goal, whether it's protecting the wasteland from dangerous technology or uncovering ancient secrets.
Yeah, I've heard some pretty wild stories about the Brotherhood over the years. Do you think they're a force for good, or are they just another power-hungry faction like the rest?
Well, Joe, I think the Brotherhood is a complicated organization. They've done a lot of good in the past, but they've also made some questionable decisions. Ultimately, I think it's up to each individual to decide where they stand on the issue.
That's a fair point. Now, House has been a previous guest on the show. I want to ask you, what's House's plan? What was he doing living this long? What's his plan for the Mojave Wasteland?
Well, Joe, Mr. House is a complicated figure. He's been around for a long time, and he's definitely got some ambitious plans for the wasteland. From what I've heard, House has been working on a project named Platinum Chip, which he hopes will become a hub of commerce and technology in the post-apocalyptic world.
That's definitely interesting. But how does House plan on achieving this? Does he have the resources and manpower to pull something like this off?
House is definitely a smart guy, Joe. He's got a lot of advanced technology at his disposal, and he's been using it to gain power and influence in the wasteland.
So is House a force for good in the wasteland, or is he just another power-hungry dictator?
That's a tough question to answer, Joe. On the one hand, House's plans could bring some much-needed stability and prosperity to the wasteland. But on the other hand, he's also a bit of a control freak, and he's not afraid to use violence and intimidation to get what he wants.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. All right, folks, we're running out of time, but before we go, Nobark, I want to hear your thoughts on the future of the wasteland. What do you think it's going to look like in 10, 20, even 50 years?
Well, Joe, I think the wasteland is always going to be a dangerous and unpredictable place. But I also think that there's a lot of potential for progress and growth. If the right people and factions can come together and work towards a common goal, we might just be able to create a better future for ourselves and future generations.
Well said, Nobark. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Thanks for listening to my theories, Joe.
Yeah, you did it, dude.
How are you, Wastelanders? It's your host, Joe Rogan, beaming straight out of the Mojave, thanks to the generous sponsorship of the Ultra Lux Casino. Yes, you heard that right, the Ultra Lux Casino. If you've ever dreamt of a chance to enjoy a swanky cocktail with the upper crust of the Mojave, or if you just want to sit back and enjoy the melodies of the Rat Pack on a real pre-war record player, well, dream no more. The Ultra Lux Casino is your destination. Now I know what you're thinking. Joe, I can barely keep myself from being Deathclaw lunch. How am I supposed to enjoy the luxury of the Ultra Lux Casino? But folks, that's the magic of it all. The Ultra Lux Casino isn't just a casino, it's a lifestyle. It's about shaking off the dust of the wasteland and stepping into a world of glitz, glamour, and a healthy dose of debauchery. Try your luck at the blackjack table, throw some dice at the craps pit, or just spin the roulette wheel and pray to whatever god you believe in. And don't forget the slot machines, folks. Who knows? You might hit the jackpot and walk away with enough caps to buy your own piece of the Mojave. But hey, the Ultra Lux Casino is more than just games. They also have a world-class restaurant with some absolutely tasty food. I can personally vouch for it as the best meat I've ever had in my life. The only complaint I have is that it tasted a bit weird, however. Plus, the in-house bar serves the coldest sunset sarsaparilla in all of New Vegas. How they managed to get it that cold in the middle of the desert, I have no idea. I suspect it involves a Securitron, some duct tape, and a few gallons of liquid nitrogen, but that's just a hunch. A big salute to the Ultra Lux Casino for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience. Remember, folks, what happens in the Ultra Lux stays in the Ultra Lux unless you get caught counting cards, in which case you'll be making a rather dramatic exit courtesy of the casino security. Don't say I didn't warn you. Shame on you for trying to make the casino lose money. Hey, Jamie, pull up the holotape of that guy getting tossed out last week, would you? No? We're still live? I really have to stop forgetting about that. Are you tired of the same old casinos with their stuffy atmosphere and boring games? Then it's time to hit up the Atomic Wrangler, where the party never stops. At the Atomic Wrangler, we've got everything you need to have a good time. From our wide selection of hookers and slot machines and table games to our legendary live entertainment. And with our friendly whores, I mean staff, and our unbeatable prices, you won't find a better place to let loose and blow off some steam. But the Atomic Wrangler is more than just a casino. We're also your one-stop shop for all your needs in Freeside. From our full-service bar to our top-of-the-line hotel rooms, we've got you covered. And with our convenient location right on the Strip, you'll be in the heart of the action in no time. So what are you waiting for? Come on down to the Atomic Wrangler and experience the thrill of sarsaparilla in all of New Vegas. How they managed to get it that cold in the middle of the desert, I have no idea. I suspect it involves a Securitron, some duct tape, and a few gallons of liquid nitrogen, but that's just a hunch. A big salute to the Ultralux Casino for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience. Remember, folks, what happens in the Ultralux stays in the Ultralux unless you get caught counting cards, in which case you'll be making a rather dramatic exit courtesy of the casino security. Don't say I didn't warn you. Shame on you for trying to make the casino lose money. Hey, Jamie, pull up the holotape of that guy getting tossed out last week, would you? No? We're still live? I really have to stop forgetting about that. Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience, folks. Today we have a special guest on the show, President Aaron Kimball, the leader of the new California Republic, currently occupying the Mojave Wasteland. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here.
So, let's jump right into it. The new California Republic has a long and storied history. Can you tell us a little bit about the founding of your nation?
Absolutely. Before the NCR, there existed Shady Sands. The town was rife with conflict, with constant problems from rad scorpions and raiders alike. That was until the Vault Dweller stepped in. He single-handedly saved the town, and we still praise him as a hero today. Afterward, the new California Republic was founded in 2186 by Aradesh, who is also our first president. Our primary goal is to create a stable democratic society that could thrive in the post-apocalyptic world.
That's really interesting. The Vault Dweller is something that Marcus, another guest on our show, has mentioned. So, how has the NCR changed over the years?
Well, we've faced a lot of challenges over the years, but I like to think we've come out stronger on the other side. Our population has grown significantly, and we've expanded our borders to include much of California and parts of Nevada. One of our biggest challenges is dealing with the various factions and groups that exist in the Mojave Wasteland, where we're currently occupying. Those damn raider junkies, which we conveniently name fiends, have been giving us trouble left and right. Also, the cons have been a consistent problem for us. Some may call my take controversial, but Bitter Springs was justified. We've had to fight a number of battles to establish our presence here, and there are still threats that we need to deal with on a daily basis.
That's a really bold take about Bitter Springs. Speaking of the Mojave Wasteland, what can you tell us about the situation there? I've heard rumors of a conflict between the NCR and a group called the Legion.
Yes, the Legion is a formidable enemy that we've been dealing with for some time now. They're a highly organized military force that's dedicated to the destruction of our republic. We've fought several battles with them already, but they continue to be a thorn in our side.
That sounds like a tough fight. How do you plan to defeat the Legion?
We have a number of strategies in place, but our primary focus is on winning the hearts and minds of the people of the Mojave. We believe that by demonstrating the benefits of democracy and freedom, we can show the people that the NCR is the best choice for their future.
Well, it sounds like you have your work cut out for you. Another question, if you may. Many people have accused you of being corrupt and serving the will of the Brahmin barons. What do you say to these valid accusations?
I'm sorry, Joe, but those accusations are completely baseless. The NCR is a democracy, and I serve the will of the people, not some wealthy elite. The Brahmin barons have no special influence over our government or our policies.
Okay, but there have been reports of corruption within the NCR government, including allegations that some officials have accepted bribes from the Brahmin barons in exchange for favorable treatment. How do you respond to those claims?
Those claims are simply untrue. We have a strict code of conduct within the NCR government, and anyone found to be engaging in corrupt activities will be punished to the fullest extent of the law. These allegations are nothing more than baseless rumors spread by our enemies.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to another topic. The NCR is often seen as a beacon of hope in the post-apocalyptic world, with its focus on democracy and freedom. But there are also those who criticize your government's expansionist policies. What do you say to those critics?
Well, I would say that our expansionist policies are necessary for the survival of our republic. We need to secure new territories and resources in order to support our growing population and ensure our long-term stability. Of course, we always try to expand peacefully and through diplomatic means, but sometimes force is necessary to protect our interests.
Many people are curious about your relationship with Robert House, the founder of New Vegas. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Mr. House is an interesting figure. He's a brilliant man with a lot of ideas about how to improve the Mojave Wasteland. While we don't always see eye to eye on everything, we do share a common goal of making the region a better place for everyone.
That's a diplomatic answer. But what do you really think of Mr. House and his plans for New Vegas?
I suppose I should be careful what I say, since Mr. House is a powerful figure in the Mojave. But I will say this. While I respect his intelligence and his vision for the future, I have concerns about his methods. He's very secretive and seems to have his own agenda, which can be a bit unnerving.
Now, some of our viewers may view you negatively, Mr. President, for your handling of certain crises in the past. For example, there was the I-15 incident where the new California Republic failed to provide aid to miners still troubled by death claws. There was also the situation at Camp Forlorn Hope, where NCR troops were left vulnerable to Legion attacks. And there have been concerns about your government's inability to deal with the Fiends gang. What do you have to say to those criticisms?
Well, Joe, let me say that I take those criticisms very seriously. As the leader of the NCR, it is my responsibility to ensure the safety and security of our citizens and our troops. And in those instances, we fell short. However, it's important to understand that we are operating in a very challenging environment, with limited resources and a multitude of threats. We are doing the best we can with what we have, but mistakes will inevitably happen. The important thing is that we learn from those mistakes and strive to do better in the future.
I can understand that, but some people might argue that these mistakes are indicative of larger problems within the NCR government. They might say that you're stretched too thin, or that you're not able to effectively govern such a large territory. What do you say to those criticisms?
I say that those criticisms are unfounded. We have a robust system of governance in place, with checks and balances to ensure that power is not abused. And while there are certainly challenges associated with governing such a large territory, we have a dedicated and skilled workforce that is up to the task.
Before we go, I have one more question for you, Mr. President. What are your thoughts on the Brotherhood of Steel? There have been reports of clashes between NCR troops and the Brotherhood in the past, and some people see them as a potential threat to the security of the region.
The Brotherhood of Steel is an interesting group, to say the least. They have a unique perspective on the world and a strong sense of purpose. However, we have had our disagreements with them in the past, particularly over their hoarding of technology. That being said, we recognize that the Brotherhood can be a valuable ally in the fight against the Legion and other threats to the region. We are open to dialogue with them and are willing to work with them if it benefits the people of the Mojave.
That's a reasonable approach. Well, Mr. President, thank you again for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Joe. The pleasure was all mine.
Are you tired of the same old casinos with their stuffy atmosphere and boring games? Then it's time to hit up the Atomic Wrangler, where the party never stops. At the Atomic Wrangler, we've got everything you need to have a good time. From our wide selection of hookers and slot machines and table games to our legendary live entertainment. And with our friendly whores, I mean staff, and our unbeatable prices, you won't find a better place to let loose and blow off some steam. But the Atomic Wrangler is more than just a casino. We're also your one-stop shop for all your needs in Freeside. From our full-service bar to our top-of-the-line hotel rooms, we've got you covered. And with our convenient location right on the Strip, you'll be in the heart of the action in no time. So what are you waiting for? Come on down to the Atomic Wrangler and experience the thrill of gambling like never before. Remember, the Atomic Wrangler, where the fun never stops. Thanks to all you wonderful folks down at the Atomic Wrangler for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience, the new California Republic's #1 podcast. And can someone please tell Destiny that I've sent her payment via the Mojave Express? One of their couriers picked it up and is on their way to deliver it to her right now. I think it was Courier 6. And will someone also tell Destiny to stop threatening me? She keeps saying she's going to tell my wife about what we did, and honestly, I really don't need that right now. Welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience, folks. Today, I have a very special guest joining me, Marcus. Now, for those of you who don't know, Marcus is the mayor of Jacobstown, a town in the Mojave Wasteland. But here's the kicker. Marcus is also a super mutant. Yeah, you heard that right, a super mutant. Marcus, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. So Marcus, can you tell us a bit about your backstory? How did you become a super mutant?
It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show, Joe. Well, I used to be part of a vault, Vault 17, the same one that Lily Bowen, a Nightkin, happens to be from. I was exposed to FEV, the forced evolutionary virus, and that's what turned me into a super mutant.
Wow, that's intense. And what was it like being a super mutant?
Yeah, it wasn't easy. A lot of humans were scared of us mutants, and rightfully so. I served with the Master for a long time. I eventually found my way to the town of Broken Hills, where I made a new life for myself.
And I know you've had some experience with the Master. What was it like dealing with him?
Yeah, the Master was a real piece of work. He was trying to create a new race of super mutants in an attempt to elevate humans to a new level. I respect the Master to this day with what he's done.
That's wild. It sounds like you've had quite the journey. One thing that's always intrigued me about the super mutants is their ideology. I mean, you were created by a group that had some pretty extreme views. Did you ever agree with the Master and his vision for the future?
At one point, I did believe in what the Master was preaching. I thought that creating a new race of super mutants could be the key to a better future for everyone. Over time, I've actually also come to respect the Vault Dweller who took him down.
That's understandable. I can imagine it must have been tough to come to terms with those conflicting beliefs. So after the Master and his army were defeated, what did you do next?
Well, I stuck around in the wasteland for a while longer, trying to help out where I could. I eventually ended up settling in the town of Jacobstown, which was founded by a group of super mutants like myself. It's a place where mutants and humans can live together peacefully, and I'm proud to be the mayor of that town.
That's really cool, Marcus. It's amazing how you've been able to make a positive impact on the wasteland despite all the challenges you've faced as a super mutant. Can you tell us a bit more about Jacobstown? What's life like there?
Sure, Joe. Jacobstown is a small town nestled in the mountains of the Mojave Wasteland. We've got a mix of humans, super mutants, and other creatures living there, and we all get along pretty well. We've got a doctor who's working on finding a cure for the Nightkin illness, and we're always looking for ways to improve our community.
That's really impressive, Marcus. It sounds like you've built something truly special. And I have to say, it's great to see mutants and even some humans living together in harmony. We could all learn a thing or two from you guys. You mentioned earlier that you had some experience with the Vault Dweller. What was your relationship like with him, and how did he ultimately defeat the Master?
Yeah, the Vault Dweller was an incredible person. Over time, I developed a respect for him, as he fought against the Master and his army of mutants. As for how he defeated the Master, it was actually a pretty ingenious plan. He found the Master himself in the cathedral, and he destroyed it. Without the cathedral, and without Mariposa, which the Dweller later destroyed, the super mutants lost their sense of purpose and scattered.
That's really interesting. It sounds like the Vault Dweller was a true hero. And what did he do after defeating the Master? I heard he went on to found a tribe in a place called Arroyo.
Yeah, that's right. After defeating the Master, the Vault Dweller decided to travel northward and explore the rest of the wasteland. Eventually, he found a place called Arroyo, where he settled down and founded a tribe. He helped the people of Arroyo rebuild their community and taught them how to survive in the wasteland. It's a great example of how one person can make a difference.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see how much impact one person can have on the world, especially in a place like the wasteland where life is so difficult. It sounds like you and the Vault Dweller have a lot in common in terms of your desire to make a positive impact on the world. Speaking of Arroyo, I think our viewers are itching to know more about the Chosen One. Can you tell us a bit about how he came to be and what his role was in the wasteland?
Sure thing, Joe. The Chosen One was actually the grandchild of the Vault Dweller, and he was born and raised in Arroyo. When the Vault Dweller passed away, the tribe entered a decline, and the Chosen One was tasked with finding a Garden of Eden creation kit, or GECK, which was supposed to contain the tools needed to rebuild the wasteland.
Wow, that's pretty intense. So why did the Chosen One have to leave Arroyo to find the GECK, and how did you end up meeting him?
The Chosen One had to leave Arroyo because the tribe was facing a drought, and they needed the GECK to create a sustainable source of water. As for how I met him, well, let's just say we crossed paths while he was on his quest. We had some common problems, so we teamed up to take them down together.
That's really cool, Marcus. It's amazing how interconnected all these stories are. And it's fascinating to see how the actions of one person can have such a big impact on the world. You say that you crossed paths. How did you help the Vault Dweller, and what did he go on to do?
Well, it seemed like he had a problem, and I had a problem. We were both trying to take down our problems. So we teamed up after he took care of my problem, and I helped him with his problem. Specifically, with what the Chosen One went on to accomplish, well, let's just say he saved the world.
Wow, that's quite the accomplishment. How exactly did he save the world?
The Enclave had this plan to release a virus called the FEV, which would have killed all non-mutated humans in the wasteland. The Chosen One was able to infiltrate their base and stop them from carrying out their plan. He also managed to destroy their oil rig, which was their main base of operations. Although I'm convinced that there were remnants somewhere, and they escaped, so they're probably still alive.
Yeah, that's what Nobark Noonan thinks. And so now you are here, in Jacobstown. It's amazing to see how all these stories are interconnected and how the actions of one person can have such a big impact on the world. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us today, Marcus. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, you did it, dude.
Let me tell you about our sponsor for today's show. Have you ever found yourself wandering the wasteland, parched and desperate for a drink? Well, worry no more, because our sponsor has the solution. Introducing Sunset Sarsaparilla, the official beverage of the Mojave Wasteland. It's the perfect combination of sweetness and carbonation that will quench your thirst and give you the energy you need to keep trekking through this unforgiving landscape. Now, I know what you're thinking. Joe, is Sunset Sarsaparilla safe to drink? I don't want to end up with radiation poisoning. Well, let me tell you, Sunset Sarsaparilla has been thoroughly tested and is completely safe to consume. Definitely. In fact, it's so good, you'll forget you're even in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Another question is, Joe, hasn't Sunset Sarsaparilla stopped production since the Great War? The answer is no. The NCR is actively building new manufacturing factories in the West, and those factories produce many products. One of those products is Sunset Sarsaparilla, which means it's in production again. So the next time you're out scavenging for supplies, be sure to grab a cold and refreshing bottle of Sunset Sarsaparilla. And don't forget to tune in to our show for more exciting adventures in the Mojave Wasteland. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Today, we have a very special guest with us. He's a ghoul mechanic and self-proclaimed gunslinger who says he's been imprisoned at Black Mountain in the Mojave Wasteland. Please welcome Raul Alfonso Tejada.
Thank you for having me on the show, Joe.
Raul, it's great to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become a ghoul and end up as a prisoner at Black Mountain?
Well, Joe, I was born before the Great War in Mexico. I was a mechanic and an excellent shooter back then. When the bombs fell, I was with my sister at a ranch that was unaffected by the Great War. Her name was Rafaela. At some point, after we started accepting refugees, we started to run out of supplies. Eventually, when we started turning people away, things went to crap. One night, a group of people came and barred the house before setting our house on fire. Only me and my sister got out. Afterward, we headed to Mexico City against our better judgment.
That's rough, man. How did you manage to survive for so long in the wasteland?
Yeah, rough is one word. Well, Joe, I'm a survivor. I've been through a lot over the years. One day, after I was ghoulified, I found an old vaquero outfit and started wearing it. Rafaela really liked the outfit. I eventually gained a notorious reputation as a gunslinger, which led to people targeting me. Eventually, one morning after my sister went out, I found her dead. I destroyed the people who murdered her to the last man.
I'm sorry to hear that, Raul. That's a terrible tragedy. It sounds like you've been through a lot of hardship in your life. So, how did you end up at Black Mountain?
Well, after my sister's death, I continued wandering the wasteland. One day, I happened upon a radio signal from Black Mountain. When it went quiet, I got interested and decided to go up there. There, I met a mutant named Tabitha. who after I fixed the radio willingly, made work as a mechanic through means which aren't peaceful to say the least. I tried to escape a few times, but I'm always threatened with violence. Damn mutants.
That's intense. How have you managed to survive working for the super mutants?
It's not easy. I'm like a slave and they don't give me much food or water. But I'm resourceful. I've managed to scavenge some parts and tools for myself over time. I also have a workbench, which has allowed me to craft some devious plans over the years. Looks like they're too dumb to figure that out.
That's impressive, Raul. Do you have any plans for your future?
I've thought about some, Joe, but it's not easy to think with walls around me. The mutants have fortified the place pretty well, and they have some serious firepower. Plus, there's Tabitha. She's a tough cookie.
Interesting to hear.
For whatever reason a listener might be traveling along the I-15, I suggest you avoid Black Mountain. It's not a kind place.
Now, at some point in your life, you must have passed through Arizona to get here. How's Arizona?
Ah, Arizona. It's a tough place, Joe. The Legion has a strong presence there, and while many view the Legion negatively, in Arizona they've created a brutal but safe society. However, they're not too friendly to anyone else who doesn't fit their idea of the perfect society. One piece of advice I can give is to never sell chems to them. It won't end well for you. By the way, I listened to your podcast with Joshua Graham. Loved it.
Oh, thanks, man.
Anyways, in Arizona, there are some good people there too, trying to make a living and survive in the wasteland. I've done some work for a few of them in the past.
That sounds like a challenging environment to live in. What kind of work have you done for the people of Arizona?
Mostly mechanical work, Joe. I've fixed up cars and weapons, and I've also helped some farmers repair their irrigation systems. I try to help out where I can. It's not easy being a ghoul in the wasteland, but I figure if I can do some good and make people's lives a little easier, it's worth it.
That's a noble way of looking at things, Raul. It's clear that you've had to face a lot of adversity in your life, but you're still out there trying to help people. That's impressive. So, what do you think the future holds for you? Do you have any plans or goals for the future?
As I said, Joe, my main goal right now is to get out of Black Mountain and back into the world. Beyond that, I'm not sure. I've been thinking about maybe heading up to New Vegas and seeing if I can make a life there, find somebody. It's a dangerous place, but it's also full of opportunity. Maybe I'll even start my own garage and gun shop. Who knows? The wasteland is full of surprises.
Now, I wanted to ask you about something that I've heard about in the wasteland, the Brotherhood of Steel. They're known for being pretty anti-ghoul, aren't they?
Yeah, Joe, that's unfortunately true. The Brotherhood has always been pretty intolerant of ghouls, and they're not too fond of mutants in general. They see themselves as some holier-than-thou protectors of technology, and they think that anyone who's not human is a threat to that technology. I've had a few run-ins with them over the years, and it's never been pleasant.
That's really unfortunate. It seems like they're missing out on the potential contributions that ghouls and other non-humans could make to society. Do you think something could be done to change their minds?
Honestly, Joe, I'm not sure there's much that can be done. The Brotherhood is pretty set in their ways. They've got a pretty strict and stupid code, and they don't deviate from it. I think the best we can hope for is to try and find common ground with the people who are more open-minded. There are plenty of factions out there who are willing to work with ghouls and other mutants. And I think that's where we should focus our efforts.
That's a good point. It's important to find allies and build a community of like-minded people who are willing to look past our differences and work together for the greater good. Now, speaking of communities, have you encountered other ghouls and tried to form partnerships? I can imagine that forming alliances with other ghouls might be a good way to help each other out.
Absolutely, Joe. There are plenty of ghouls out there who are just trying to survive, just like me. Over the years, I've met a lot of them and formed some pretty tight bonds. We share resources, watch each other's backs, and offer each other support when we need it. It's not always easy to find people you can trust in the wasteland, but I've been lucky to find some great friends among the ghoul community.
That's really great to hear, Raul. It's inspiring to see people coming together and supporting each other in such a harsh and unforgiving environment. It's a reminder that even in the worst of circumstances, we can still find hope and connection with others.
Exactly, Joe. The wasteland might be a brutal place, but it's also a place where people can come together and make a difference. We might be mutants, but we're still human, and we still have the ability to build communities and support each other.
Well said, Raul. Thank you again for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Joe. It's been an honor.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, you did it.
I'm Joe Rogan, and I'm here in the Mojave Wasteland where the sun is scorching and the sand is blowing. Now, I know you're all out there surviving in this harsh and unforgiving environment, and that's why I want to tell you about a product that can help you stay healthy and strong. Introducing the Mojave Survival Kit. This kit comes with everything you need to survive in the wasteland, including a water filtration system, a durable backpack, a first aid kit, and more. With the Mojave Survival Kit, you can hike through the desert without worrying about dehydration, build a shelter to protect yourself from the elements, and even defend yourself from raiders and creatures with the included survival knife. So don't wait any longer. Order your Mojave Survival Kit from your local caravan or outpost today, and make sure you have the tools you need to survive in this harsh and unforgiving world. Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience, where you, as a listener, get to hear interesting views from all areas of life. Thanks for being on this show, Father Elijah.
Thanks for having me on.
Now, Father Elijah is calling in from the Sierra Madre and can't be directly on site. Before the show, you told me your plan for using the Sierra Madre to wipe the slate clean. Your plan sounds like it has enormous potential, but I'm curious. There are definitely large moral and ethical dilemmas with your plan. I want to hear you out for once, however. How do you plan on grappling with these dilemmas in your pursuit of a new civilization?
The moral question. To me, it is clear. We are living in a world destroyed by humanity's folly. I believe the end justifies the means in this situation. The Sierra Madre has the potential to restore order, provide stability, to begin again. It could be the bedrock of a new world, free of the chaos and suffering that is the wasteland.
But it sounds like you're saying that you are willing to force this solution onto people with the use of these collars. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and it is a difficult truth. But consider the current state of our world, Joe. We are fragmented, constantly at odds, resources are scarce, and violence is rampant. My goal is to create unity and stability, a chance for a better life. The collars, they are a tool of control, but also a guarantee of safety and survival.
I see. You want to bring people together temporarily, but isn't there something deeply troubling about the idea of stripping people's freedom to ensure cooperation?
Freedom is a luxury, one we can no longer afford in our world. The road to recovery is steep, Joe, and for some, a firm hand to guide them is necessary.
I guess it's all about perspective, huh? From my chair, it seems like the technology you're dealing with is extremely powerful. What about the danger of it falling into the wrong hands?
It is a risk. But the Sierra Madre's defenses are formidable. Holographic security, toxic cloud. It's not easy to conquer. I'm one of the few who understand it well enough to truly harness its capabilities. I will use it responsibly to bring about a new era for humanity. We will rise from the ashes, stronger, unified.
Now, before the show, Elijah, you made it pretty clear you have a large disdain for the NCR. What are your views on them? What are your specific complaints about their empire?
Yes, the New California Republic, so-called bearers of civilization in the wasteland. You see, Joe, my disdain for them is based on their hubris, their short-sightedness. They aspire to rebuild an old world that led to its own destruction. They try to impose order and bureaucracy where flexibility and innovation are needed.
But some might argue that they're just trying to bring some semblance of normality back to the world, right?
Normality. They're bringing back the same institutions and ideals that got us into this mess in the first place. Democracy, capitalism, exploitation of resources without a thought for the consequences. They're stretching themselves too thin, expanding without fortifying, consuming without replenishing. It's the same old story of humanity's hubris.
So if I understand correctly, your main issue is their lack of foresight and their repetition of the same mistakes.
Precisely, Joe. The world has changed. We cannot return to the old ways. We need new methods, new structures, new thinking. That's why the Sierra Madre technology is so crucial. It provides the tools to build a new kind of society, one built on self-sufficiency, security, and unity.
And you believe that people should be forced into this new society for their own good?
I believe, Joe, that sometimes people don't know what's best for them. They need guidance. They need order. In this brutal world, those who can't adapt die. It's harsh, yes, but it's the reality. I simply offer a means to adapt, to survive, and perhaps to flourish once again.
Well, that's certainly a provocative take, Father Elijah. It's a very ends justify the means approach. It's a fascinating discussion, and I appreciate your perspective, even if it's controversial. There's no easy answers in a post-apocalyptic world. Speaking of the world, I've heard tales of your various travels, especially from a certain courier across the world. The courier is not to be confused with the one that woke up in Good Springs pretty recently. One tale I've heard is that you've been through the Big Empty, a place many folks avoid like the plague. What was your experience like there?
The Big Empty, or as some call it, the Old World Blues. A desolate place, but teeming with the echoes of the past. Scientific marvels, technological relics, but also a stark reminder of the destruction that our obsession with progress led to.
Yeah, it seems like a haunting place, a graveyard of the old world, but you're one of the few who ventured into that dangerous terrain. What did you discover?
In the Big Empty, I found remnants of advanced technologies, remnants of a world that once was. The Think Tank, a group of pre-war scientists transformed into sentient brains, trapped in a perpetual cycle of experimentation. It's fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
Terrifying indeed. So, how did those discoveries shape your outlook on the world?
The Big Empty is a testament to mankind's folly, a monument to our mistakes, but it also houses keys to our redemption. From the wreckage, I managed to salvage technologies that could be harnessed for the betterment of humanity. But it also reaffirmed my belief that we must tread carefully, lest we repeat the errors of our past.
Right, that there's a fine line between advancement and self-destruction. It's amazing. Right, that there's a fine line between advancement and self-destruction. It's amazing and a little unnerving how history continues to echo in the present.
Indeed, Joe. The echoes are loudest in the emptiness. We just need to listen, learn, and not repeat the same song of destruction.
Now, something our listeners might want to know about is your experience with being an elder for the Brotherhood of Steel. How did you first occupy Helios 1? How did you lose it to the NCR? What's with the Brotherhood now?
Indeed, I was an elder. Helios 1. It was an old-world facility, a solar power plant of immense capacity. I saw its potential, the energy it could provide, the power it could give the Brotherhood. We occupied it with the intent to harness its power, to fuel our efforts and strengthen our presence in the wasteland. As for losing it, the NCR, they were expanding, reaching out for every resource they could grasp. We were outnumbered, outgunned. Despite our technological superiority, we were not prepared for a full-scale assault. In the end, I ordered a retreat to save my brethren from a total wipeout.
That must have been a heavy decision to make. I'd have thought that your objective in Helios 1 was to protect the technology, rather than to secure it for power. It's interesting to find out that there were ulterior motives.
It was, Joe. But as a leader, you're faced with tough choices. You have to weigh the survival of your people against your goals, your ideals. It's never easy.
I can only imagine. And how about the Brotherhood now? What's happening with them?
The Brotherhood, they're survivors. Resilient. After the loss of Helios 1, they retreated, regrouped. They're still out there, somewhere in the wasteland, clinging to their mission of preserving old world technology. I can feel it, but I fear they may be losing sight of the broader picture without me. Technology is a tool, not a god to be worshipped. It needs to be used, adapted, evolved, not hoarded.
Hello,
and hidden away.
welcome to Randall and
That's why
Associates.
I'm on
Allow
this
me to
path.
introduce myself.
It
I'm
sounds
Stephen.
like you've had quite a journey.
Hell yes, it's open.
I
I
appreciate your openness
only.
and honesty. Despite
That's
the
good.
dire circumstances,
You'll be
your
pursuing,
hope and
but
determination
with the
are
high
remarkable.
stakes comes increased rewards.
Despite
There's
the
cash
fact
for
that
every bounty,
some of your
and increased payment
Thank you for
as you
having me
complete
on
more
the experience,
contracts.
Logan.
There's quick money in bounties, but you can rapidly make a name for yourself, and a lot of people will be looking for payback. So, what's your decision? Your first target is Tom Quigley. Apparently he contracted syphilis and steadily lost his fucking mind. Despite his abilities with a rifle, he eventually turned to banditry and murder. Quigley's crazy, but he's still damn lethal.
Have you ever considered that maybe, just maybe, you need a change
Good.
of pace from that dreary scavenging life? Do you enjoy the thrill of bartering with rad scorpions and the challenge of haggling and the challenge of haggling with ghoul merchants. Then, folks, have I got a job for you. The Happy Trails Caravan Company is recruiting. Yes, the one and only legendary caravan that's outlasted the nuclear fallout and still, mostly, outpaces the competition. As part of their dynamic trading team, you'll enjoy all the thrills of the wasteland without the hassle of fending off white legs. Well, most of the time. Your trusty Brahmin and your wagon will be your home on wheels, carrying all the essentials from Wasteland Water to Sunset Sarsaparilla. Imagine it, cruising under the scorching Mojave sun, sipping on that ice-cold sarsaparilla, while your radio plays the smooth tunes of Mr. New Vegas. Ah, ain't that a slice of heaven? But remember, folks, being a part of the Happy Trails Caravan isn't just about earning those shiny caps you need for Fisto. It's about bringing communities together, supplying folks with that rare Mojave survival kit they need to brave the next rad storm or that sweet Atomic Wranglers limited edition deck of cards they've been searching for. It's about connecting the Brotherhood of Steel with the NCR military, the Tops Casino with the Atomic Wrangler, in a dance of trade that makes the wasteland spin. And hey, before you scoff, remember this. In the wasteland, traders are the real heroes. After all, who do you think brings you the Stimpaks for your spear wounds? Now that I say it, people should stop trying to sell the Legion drugs. So sign up with the Happy Trails Caravan Company today. Live a life of adventure, meet fascinating people, and probably get robbed by them. And if you act now, they're throwing in a free box of Sunset Sarsaparilla, the Wasteland's favorite drink, with a surprise star cap and some boxes. Big thanks to the Happy Trails Caravan Company for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience, the only podcast that dares to broadcast from an undisclosed bunker location in the Mojave Wasteland. What? No, Jamie, I'm not going to tell them where we are. Yes, I know it would be good for ratings, but it'd also be good for getting us blown up. Sheesh, the things you have to put up with. Hey, are we still on air? Shit. Welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience. Today we have an extraordinary guest, Ulysses, formerly affiliated with Caesar's Legion and currently residing in the Divide.
Thanks for having me, Joe. A long road it's been to get here.
I can imagine. For our listeners who may not know, can you explain what Caesar's Legion and the Divide are?
This should be obvious, but Caesar's Legions, it's a tribe, trying to forge itself into a nation by the hand of Caesar. A man who took the history of Rome as his blueprint. The Divide, it's a place, a tear in the earth, a home I made.
for. It's about connecting the Brotherhood of Steel with the NCR military, the Tops Casino with the Atomic Wrangler, in a dance of trade that makes the wasteland spin. And hey, before you scoff, remember this. In the wasteland, traders are the real heroes. After all, who do you think brings you the stim packs for your spear wounds? Now that I say it, people should stop trying to sell the Legion drugs. So sign up with the Happy Trails Caravan Company today. Live a life of adventure, meet fascinating people, and probably get robbed by them. And if you act now, they're throwing in a free box of Sunset Sarsaparilla, the Wasteland's favorite drink, with a surprise star cap and some boxes. Big thanks to the Happy Trails Caravan Company for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience, the only podcast that dares to broadcast from an undisclosed bunker location in the Mojave Wasteland. What? No, Jamie, I'm not going to tell them where we are. Yes, I know it would be good for ratings, but it'd also be good for getting us blown up. Sheesh, the things you have to put up with. Hey, are we still on air?
No.
Shit. Welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience. Today we have an extraordinary guest, Ulysses, formerly affiliated with Caesar's Legion and currently residing in the Divide.
Thanks for having me, Joe. A long road it's been to get here.
I can imagine. For our listeners who may not know, can you explain what Caesar's Legion and the Divide are?
This should be obvious, but Caesar's legions, it's a tribe, trying to forge itself into a nation by the hand of Caesar. A man who took the history of Rome as his blueprint. The Divide, it's a place, a tear in the earth, a home I made for myself after the Legion.
Fascinating. So, you've been a part of this Legion. What was that like?
It was a culture of strength, unity, obedience. But it had its faults. It chose to ignore the value of the individual, made a man less than a man, a cog in the machine.
That's a very profound way of looking at it. Do you think there's any comparison to be made with how society is structured in our world today?
The world you know, it's different, but not so different. People cling to structures, systems to give their lives meaning, order. Sometimes they forget themselves in the process.
That's true. There's a lot of people who lose themselves in the systems they're part of. To me, those familiar elements could be work, government, or social media. In some ways, it feels like we're all part of some legion or another, just trying to make sense of the world.
Yes, the bear and the bull, different beasts, but beasts still, be it Caesar's Legion or your own tribes. It's all about power, control. The trick is remembering who you are, not losing yourself to the mask you wear.
That's a very interesting perspective, Ulysses. Shifting gears a bit, it seems like you're very big on old world symbols. Can you explain what these symbols represent and how they've influenced your worldview?
The old world. It left behind symbols, history. Sometimes they're reminders of what we've lost. Sometimes warnings of the path not to tread. The flag of the old world, the stars and stripes. To some, it's hope. To others, a reminder of destruction.
It's interesting how symbols can have such differing interpretations. They really do carry the weight of history with them.
Yes. And often, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Like the Divide, the old world symbols serve as reminders of the path walked and those yet to be trodden.
So, these symbols from the past, do they guide your decisions today? What role do they play in your current life in the Divide?
They remind me of the roads I've walked, the mistakes made, and the lessons learned. Like the old world flag on my back, it's a burden, a responsibility to remember, to strive for a better path. The Divide is a harsh place, a symbol itself. It serves as a testament to the destructive power of old wars and forgotten technologies. It's a warning and a teacher. Everyone has a history, their own symbols. It's up to us to decipher them, learn from them. That's the way forward as I see it.
There's a lot of wisdom in that, Ulysses. Acknowledging and learning from the past, while also striving for a better future. It's a balance that we all should strive for. Now let's move on to another topic. I know that you used to be close with Caesar, who was another guest on our show. How would you describe him?
Caesar, he's a man of vision, of strength. He saw the tribes of the wasteland and saw potential, a nation. But he's also a man of paradoxes. He carries an old world book, speaks old world words, but condemns the old world. He claims to despise its weakness, but he's a part of it, whether he admits it or not.
That's a very nuanced statement. It sounds like there's a lot of complexity there, a lot of contradiction.
The world's a complex place, filled with paradox. The challenge is seeing them, acknowledging them. Caesar, he's blind to his own contradictions. That's his failing, his weakness.
So in a sense, his greatest strength, his conviction, his vision, could also be seen as his greatest weakness because it blinds him to these paradoxes, to the complexity of the world.
Yes, strength, vision, they're vital. But so is understanding, self-awareness. The day you believe you have nothing left to learn, that's the day you've lost. Whether you're a man, a tribe, a nation.
That's deep, Ulysses. It sounds like you've done a lot of thinking on this. And I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. No matter how much we achieve, there's always more to learn, always more complexity to unravel. I've heard that you've not only been to the Big Empty, but you've also been to Utah and the region surrounding New Canaan. What is your experience there, especially with the White Legs?
The Big Empty. It's a place of old ghosts, of forgotten science. Dangerous, but full of lessons, if you're willing to learn. Utah, New Canaan, they're different. Green, alive, even with the scars of the old world. They've been shaped by the tribes there. The White Legs among them.
The White Legs, they're a pretty notorious tribe, right?
Yes, notorious is one way to describe them. The White Legs, they're a tribe consumed by a hunger for power, for conquest. They tried to earn Caesar's favor by burning New Canaan, destroying something beautiful for the sake of ambition. I taught them, gave them tools, not knowing the ends they'd use them for. It's a mistake I carry with me.
That sounds like a heavy burden, Ulysses. But it's also a very human one. We all have actions, decisions that we regret. The important thing is learning from those experiences and using that knowledge to make better decisions moving forward.
That's the hope, Joe. To learn, to grow. We all walk our own roads, make our own mistakes. What matters is what we take from those journeys, the lessons we learn. That's what shapes us, defines us. That's what I've tried to do, since Utah, since the White Legs. I carry the past with me, but I don't let it rule me.
That's a very powerful perspective, Ulysses. I think there's a lot we can all learn from that. Thanks for sharing.
The journey here, it was worth it. To share, to learn, that's the way forward for all of us. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, you did it, dude.
there, the Whitelegs among them.
The Whitelegs, they're a pretty notorious tribe, right?
Yes, notorious is one way to describe them. The Whitelegs, they're a tribe consumed by a hunger for power, for conquest. They tried to earn Caesar's favor by burning New Canaan, destroying something beautiful for the sake of ambition. I taught them, gave them tools, not knowing the ends they'd use them for. It's a mistake I carry with me.
That sounds like a heavy burden, Ulysses. But it's also a very human one. We all have actions, decisions that we regret. The important thing is learning from those experiences and using that knowledge to make better decisions moving forward.
That's the hope, Joe. To learn, to grow. We all walk our own roads, make our own mistakes. What matters is what we take from those journeys, the lessons we learn. That's what shapes us, defines us. That's what I've tried to do, since Utah, since the Whitelegs. I carry the past with me, but I don't let it rule me.
That's a very powerful perspective, Ulysses. I think there's a lot we can all learn from that. Thanks for sharing.
The journey here, it was worth it. To share, to learn, that's the way forward for all of us. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, you did it, dude.
Hey there, Wastelanders. It's your intrepid guide to the apocalypse, Joe Rogan, coming to you live from the Mojave. We're mixing it up today with a shout out to our main sponsor, the one, the only, the Kings. Located in Freeside, just a hop, skip, and a jump over a pack of feral ghouls from the New Vegas Strip, the Kings are where it's at. It's not just a cult and a bunch of lookalikes, folks. It's now a veritable oasis of entertainment and recruitment in this sun-scorched hellhole we all call home. So what can you expect at the Kings? Well, first off, there is a stage with one singer on it if you manage to get past that asshole pacer. If you're lucky enough to get to the stage, you can find the king and promptly take his dog. Optionally, you can also do some favors for him, including figuring out why the NCR likes to massacre civilians. But let's not forget the king's crowning glory, its favors. For those of you committed to the king, this is for you. Swap your diplomatic talks in exchange for favors, including caps, creating peace, or best of all, a counterfeit passport. All right, let's wrap this up. Thanks to the Kings for sponsoring the Joe Rogan Experience. Remember, folks, life in the wasteland is tough, but it's always a party at the Kings. Now, Jamie, where's that psycho we had here earlier? We need to make sure we have enough drugs for the next... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Joe Rogan Experience. Today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from the Mojave Wasteland. His name is Benny, and he is a tribal chairman representing one of the 4 families that rule over the post-apocalyptic desert.
Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be
You
here.
can also give
Now,
me some food.
Benny, I know you're a big
If I'm
shot in
not
the
behind
Vegas
that,
Strip.
I
You
can-
own one of the hottest casinos, the Tops. What's it like running that kind of operation in the post-apocalyptic world?
Joey, my man, you're asking all the right questions. The Tops, baby, it's not just a casino, it's a lifestyle. It's the neon lights in the darkness, the jingle-jangle of chips in your pocket. We got the best shows, the swankiest suites, and the hippest cats on the strip. Sure, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, but inside the Tops, you're on cloud 9. We've got ghouls playing blackjack, super mutants sipping martinis. Ain't that a sight, huh? It's all about spreading the love, Joey. The Tops is where the magic happens, where the old world glitz meets the new world grit, you get me?
Absolutely. Sounds like quite the scene. Let's shift gears here. In your world, there's been some talk of these factions. The NCR, Caesar's Legion, and Mr. House. How do you navigate these political waters?
Well, Joe, you know, politics is a tricky game, especially when you've got a chessboard like Vegas. The NCR, they're a bunch of square cats who think they can just waltz in and take over. Caesar's Legion, well, let's just say they ain't big on democracy, dig? As for Mr. House, well, the guy's got a brain like a quantum computer, but he's colder than a Mojave night. My philosophy? I play my cards close and never fold until I know who's dealing. The Top stays neutral, baby. It's all about maintaining the peace and keeping the caps flowing. Politics is just the high-stakes game that happens between the spins of the roulette wheel. That's all.
Benny, that's a perspective you don't hear every day. This balance you're striking, it seems pretty tough. Does it ever worry you, Benny?
Joey, in this business, if you ain't a little worried, you're either fooling yourself or you're a fool. But worry, that's just another word for being prepared. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your piece at your side, and your hand on the chips, and you'll always be ready to roll with whatever comes your way. But hey, enough of that gloomy talk. Let's put on a record, pour a drink, and let the good times roll. After all, we're in Vegas, baby.
Fair enough, Benny. Now let's dive into something different. I've heard tales about these creatures called death claws. Are they really as terrifying as people make them out to be?
Oh, Joey, you're talking about the boogeymen of the Mojave. Death claws, baby. They're like if nightmares had nightmares. Imagine, if you will, a reptile that's taller than a Yao Guai, with claws that can tear through power armor like it's a pre-war suit. You hear that heavy breathing behind you in the wastes? That ain't no sandstorm, that's a death claw.
Jesus, sounds like the worst kind of monster movie come to life. Now, you're a man of style, Benny. That checkered suit, it's iconic. How do you manage to stay so well dressed in a world like this?
Well, Joey, here's the thing. In a world where everything's gone to the dogs, style is the one thing you can control. It's a statement, baby. It's about saying, I'm here, I'm alive, and I've still got it. This checkered suit, it's not just fabric, it's a philosophy. It's a way of life. You gotta dress like you're the biggest player at the table even when the chips are down. Especially when the chips are down.
It's a cool way of looking at things. So, Benny, have you ever thought about what's next? Any plans beyond running the tops?
Now that's a good question, Joey. There's always a new game to play, a new score to settle. The world keeps spinning, even when it seems like it's stuck in the mud. Vegas. She's a dame with a lot of potential, and I aim to see her shine. Who knows, baby? Maybe one day there'll be more tops lighting up the waste, bringing a bit of that old world charm to every cat and doll out there. But for now, I'm just riding the wave and enjoying the view from the top.
Now, Benny, I've heard rumors of these unique individuals in the Mojave. People like the mysterious stranger or the burned man. Side note, we've actually talked about the burned man with Caesar, and man was he apprehensive about it. Anyways, do you believe in these legends, or do you think they're just wasteland tales?
Well, Joe, I ain't one to discount a good yarn. The wasteland's a strange place, full of oddballs and mysteries. The burned man, that's a tale that'll give you the heebie-jeebies. Ain't no denying it. As for the mysterious stranger, I've heard stories. A shadowy figure that pops up out of nowhere, just in the nick of time. I can't say I've seen it with my own peepers, but in a world where folks rise from the grave, who am I to say what's real and what's not? You dig?
It's a wild world you're living in, Benny. I have heard of these creatures, too, called cazadores and night stalkers. You ever run...
Someone's here. You asked for it.
Have you killed Quigley yet? There's plenty of bounty. You ready for the next bounty? Last week, a caravan, one of the guards survived with a leg in it. His name is Chesty, and he spends his day. Our client is offering 500